It might not have been a robbery, but was it the right decision? I'm Teekosey, and you're watching With Just 15 Defeats. Welcome to With Just 15 Defeats for a heavyweight review of the WBO heavyweight title fight between Joseph Parker and Andy Ruiz Jr. If you've got any comments on this fight, I want to hear from you ASAP. So just jump ahead to the comments section and send them over. If you've got any comments on what I've got to say, because what I've got to say is going to be fairly controversial, I believe it's going to be fairly controversial. So if you do not agree with it, hit the comments section and just let me know. Hit the big thumbs up button if you like and appreciate what I'm bringing today. And jump across to the channel, hit subscribe and come back for the reviews of the other videos that we pop in into your feed as soon as I get the chance to do them. So, as I say, Joseph Parker, Andy Ruiz Jr., heavyweight championship of the world. Controversial, right? So Joseph Parker wins it on a 2 scorecards in his favour. One says it's a draw. Okay, for me, I can't see a way that Joseph Parker wins this fight. It's a very, 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 very close fight. But I've watched the fight twice and I haven't been able to score it in a way that favours Joseph Parker. I can say it's a draw. But for me, Andy Ruiz Jr., I think should have won this ever so slightly. Okay, and that's my opinion, right? And I think because it's so close, it's important to go through the rounds, so we'll flick through the rounds, but just as a brief recap of a little overview of the fight, the key points of this fight was that Andy Ruiz was walking down Parker, right? Parker was on the back foot. Parker was throwing a lot of jabs, right? His output of throwing was exceptionally high, right? But both guys were missing the vast majority of their shots, okay? And this is the key. This is the key. Most were missing the vast majority of their shots. In the exchanges, I believe that Ruiz was getting the better of the exchanges slightly, okay? But Andy Ruiz was struggling to close down Parker for the majority of the fight. Okay. Now, what I will say is you do not win a fight by walking down an opponent, by simply just walking down an opponent. And on the same sort of system, you don't win a fight just by throwing jabs. Okay, you do not win it just by throwing. Okay, you need to be effective. You need to be scoring points. You need to be inflicting damage. Right. That's how you win rounds. That's how you win fights, okay? So let's just quickly jump through the rounds, just very briefly. I'm not doing a full commentary on this fight, but let's just talk about the rounds very, very briefly. Now, the first round, it's an opening round to the fight. As we know, Andy Ruiz was on the front foot. Parker was retreating at distance. For me, Andy Ruiz was more busy, but the big shots were wide. The big shots were swinging, okay? And for me, I gave Andy Ruiz that first round. The second round, Parker's jab seems to be starting up, and he's pushing out jab and hook combinations, and it looks like there's a bit of snap to what he's doing. There's a few body shots, but halfway through the round, Andy Ruiz really closed down Parker quite well, and Parker got into a bit of a quandary, didn't quite know what to do with his feet, and Ruiz was able to land a few telling shots, and it really kind of highlighted that Parker does have some poor movement at times, and Andy Ruiz pretty much dominated the last 30 seconds. Now, this was one of those funny rounds where I think you could go either way, and I would say this is one of the rounds that will go either way. If I was being pushed, I would say Andy Ruiz wins this round for the more effective work. The third round, it's a quiet first minute from Andy Ruiz. Doesn't really do anything. He's trying to close Parker down. He's looking for counters, and he does land some eye-catching shots, the more eye-catching shots of the round. But Joseph Parker is more busy. But this is kind of like my beef with this whole fight. Joseph Parker is throwing jabs. He's pushing out, but none of them are landing. I'm watching this on the big screen. I'm looking, and those jabs are being pushed out. They're not snapping back Andy Ruiz's head. They're not really landing. They're not inflicting much damage. And for me, this is another very, very close round. It's a very, very close round, and I think it's what you prefer. But as I say, Parker, the jabs aren't landing, right? The fourth round, straight up, I'm going to tell you it's a draw. Very even. Nothing really happens. There's a lot of feeling out. There's a lot of, both of them are pushing out jabs that are nowhere near anyone's faces. And there's very little of note. The fifth round, I just really I'm just looking at my notes, what I put in. I'm basically just saying what I've just said for the previous round. That Joseph Parker's jab is not effective. He's not really... there's no intent behind that jab. He's not pushing it out, and it's making Ruiz think. Now, we've seen in a lot of previous Parker fights that the jab is just a deadly weapon for Parker. Double, triple jabs. It just pushing out, and he's just... It's deadly. It stops his opponents in their tracks. They think twice, and because of that, Parker's been able to kind of really savagely go in for the kill. Not the case here. Ruiz keeps going forward, right? And as I say, the better work, the more telling kind of accurate shots coming from Ruiz there, and I gave it a Ruiz round, right? The sixth round, this is funny. I've seen a lot of things online and people commentating that Joseph Parker won like the 6th, 7th, 8th round or whatever. For me, Andy Ruiz wins this round wide. It's wide. I've watched it 3 or 4 times. It's all Ruiz. The shots that are accurate. Parker's trying to popping out the jab. He's not landing anything. He's not landing anything until kind of the end. He lands like two jabs. I've watched it 2 or 3 times. There's just nothing really landing. He's popping out probably like 70, 80 jabs, but nothing's landing. You don't win rounds just by moving your arm backwards and forwards. You got to hit the guy. You got to hit the guy, right? 7th round. Now this is really the first round that Parker kind of really does anything, right? And he wins this round clearly. There's a bit of a change of mentality, I think, from Parker. So this is kind of, I think, what people have been saying, that he kind of changes his attitude. He gets a bit more close. He puts his feet down. He starts trying to land shots, and he kind of wins that. Now we move on to the 8th round, and I think this is kind of sums up the fight. This round, it's very, very even. Parker's he's popping out a jab. I say a lot of them are missing. Some of them are landing, right? But there's 3 kind of messy exchanges where they're kind of 50-50s, and depending on what you like, will depend on who you actually give that round to. And as I say, 3 messy exchanges. Some of them look like really Ruiz was getting the better of them, but some people will say Parker was landing cleaner shots. Now, hold on, guys. I just want to make this clear. I predicted Parker would win this fight by stoppage. I'm a massive Parker fan. He's probably my favourite heavyweight at the moment. So don't get on that I'm bashing Parker or one of these, whatever. I'm a huge, huge Parker fan, right? We move it into the 9th round. The 9th round was the terriblest round of the fight, devoid of any action. If anyone can score that to anyone, good luck to you. Right, the 10th round, Parker lands some real good shots in this round, probably his best shots of the fight. But there's also decent action from Andy Ruiz. There's some decent action, right? Decent action. And he kind of dominates the second half of the round. So you really have to give it to Andy Ruiz, right? 11th round, there's some good body shots early from Andy Ruiz. But there's another cracking right from Joseph Parker after Ruiz kind of hits Parker with his left shoulder. But I put in my notes that Ruiz won this round, and I think it's just because overall, this jab, this problem I've got with Joseph Parker's jab in this round, and this is crazy because, as I said just a few moments ago, Joseph Parker's jab is his lethal weapon. He destroys people with a jab. He wasn't able to land it in this fight. And in the 12th round, I gave it to Joseph Parker, but it was fairly close, right? So you want my results on this thing. I scored five rounds to Andy Ruiz, 2 to Joseph Parker, 2 were bang draws, terrible round. Delete them straight away. Delete those rounds, right? You delete them, so it's a 10-round fight. Andy Ruiz 5, Joseph Parker 2, 3 were questionable, right? So those 3 questionable rounds, you could give them to Parker. It's 5-all, right? So, as I say, I would give it to Andy Ruiz just, but if it, I could happily say it's 50-50. 50-50. And as I said at the start of this, right, you don't win a fight just by trying to walk someone down and not really landing much. But on the same foot, you don't win a fight by popping out a jab and not hurting someone, right? And that's basically what happened, right? Now, in my preview that you can go back and listen to if you care to, or you may have already listened to it, I said that Ruiz's defense will deteriorate rapidly. And to be fair, it was pretty average throughout the entire fight, but only because Parker was not popping that jab out and just racking Ruiz's head back. He should have been rocking him over and over again, and he wasn't, right? I also said that stamina could be an issue. Everyone said that stamina would be an issue for Andy Ruiz. He lasted the full 12 rounds. He could have done 15 at this rate because he just wasn't. Parker didn't do anything to slow him down. He wasn't. Ruiz's output was low, but he was not knackered. It's as simple as that. I said that Ruiz would struggle at range. He did. He did struggle at range, and he tried to throw himself into a lot of the combinations, but it was what it was. I said that JP has to stay on the outside, and he did, but realistically, you stay on the outside and you're popping that jab out, and you're stopping your opponent from coming in. He did it by running away, and a lot of people will look at that and say, yeah, he was boxing, he was moving, he was moving, and he was kind of trying to avoid, and we kind of seen this like with the Mayweather, Pacquiao, and loads of fights over the years where someone just walks back. I'm not going to say run. I was going to say it, but I do not mean run. He was moving backwards, and yeah, sometimes you can continue to move backwards, and if you're landing those jabs and you're rocking back your opponent when you're countering, fair enough. But Parker wasn't doing that. He was not landing that jab, right? Unfortunately, I think the problem was here that when Ruiz got in close, he had no power. He didn't really slow down or kind of stop Parker in his tracks at all, right? The funny thing is that in my preview, I said that this was going to be a great fight because we just don't know how good these two are. And I think what we found out is that neither of these are top level guys at the moment. They both got. I actually think my estimation of Ruiz has gone up. I think what I think of Parker is pretty much stayed the same. I think he's got amazing potential. I think I kind of said some things about this after the Takam fight, where there was a lot to work on. There was a lot that needed to be worked on for Parker, and I don't think he's improved. from that Takam fight, right? I think that Takam posed probably more questions from an offensive power point of view, but Ruiz was all nasty for Parker. He just kind of really didn't know how to kind of put him away, and there wasn't 1 second of that fight where you thought Parker was going to be capable of stopping Ruiz, which is the biggest thing take away from this fight, because everyone, pretty much most people said that Parker would stop Ruiz in the later rounds. That was what everyone said, that Parker's going to win this later rounds. It simply didn't happen, did it? Okay, so I think there's kind of like, Parker's picked up this strap, which is fair enough, right? As I say, I think Ruiz probably, I would have given it to Ruiz just slither by slither, but Parker's got it. He moves on. How would he fare against better opposition? I think he would struggle. I think he needs to go back and he needs to really work on a lot of things. His own defence, the way that he puts together combinations, and realistically getting into range, because he just wasn't in range for a lot of this fight. That's the biggest disappointment for me, because I think if he had been in range, he would have been able to really land and really kind of rock back at Andy Ruiz. He didn't. Andy Ruiz, I think, will look back and think, do you know what, if I was a little bit more active, if I'd landed a lot more shots, I probably, those close rounds, they would have been mine. I would have won this. And do you know what? I would be happy for there to be a rematch for this fight. I'll be more than happy to see a rematch. And I think it's going to be one of those ones where, in a rematch, Parker wins it very, very decisively. He wins it by either a landslide or stoppage. And it's like the fight the other week between Andre Ward, Kovalev. We know that in that rematch, Ward wins pretty much every single round. It's a comprehensive win for Andre Ward, right? And I think this will be the same with Joseph Parker. I think in a rematch, Joseph Parker wins this categorically, comprehensively, completely one-sided. So that's that. We'll have to see where he goes on the big fights. I don't really want to see him in with any of the other top guys. I would say he needs to find someone of a decent level, but not someone who is going to pose any serious questions or massive unification battles. So anyway, that's been my review. If you have anything to say on what I've got to say, what I've had to say for the last 15 or so minutes, I would love to hear from you. Love to create the debate, and we'll see you in the next reviews when I get a chance to put them together. So I've been Teekosey, and this has been With Just 15 Defeats.